What is the importance of art?
To me, when I talk about playwriting and talk about live theater and things like that, the stuff that speaks to me the most is that reminds me what it is to be a human being. Why am I not that chair? And sometimes that's challenging, and sometimes it's distancing a little bit, but most of the time it really just pulls me in. But I think if you're exposed to the arts, you get used to being inside somebody else's head for a little while, or at least a part of it. And that's gigantic steps toward empathy, which is something that's desperately needed right now.
Scared rabbit, they've got you boxed in. Old habit, you draw the curtain. Lonely only if they ever leave.
Hello, my name is Michael Zarick. This is Third Space Indy. In this podcast, we talk to community builders, leaders, and organizers all over Indianapolis who are doing their best to make Indianapolis a better place. Today, I'm talking to Lou Harry.
That's what you're doing.
And the reason I reached out to you is because very similar to 2 episodes ago where I talked to Tony Wiederhold, I received an email after my very first episode. Andra, I think is her name. She said, there's this guy who runs a board game night out of the garage down the street, because we're on the rooftop of Industrious on Mass Avenue. And she said he'd be a great person to talk to. And I said, all right. So I just tucked it away.
Well, to clarify, it's not in an actual garage.
Okay, it's
I don't want you to
garage.
The garage food hall over at Bottle Works.
Yes.
I didn't want people to think,
well, I like to think
some
that
old tires. And,
I like to think that the audience lives in Indianapolis, but that is a valid thing to bring up. Maybe someone doesn't know what the garage is.
Hello to those in Belgium who are listening.
I think there's like a German listener.
Oh, very good.
Randomly. But anyways, Lou, hello. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. I'm doing okay.
I caught you in a really good mood, I think.
Oh, I try to be when possible.
But I emailed you 2 hours ago to try to schedule next week, and you said talk to me in 3 hours, and here we are.
So we're here
on a roof in the sun.
Let's do it.
So, can you tell me a little bit about yourself, and tell me a little bit about board game nights, and then tell me a little bit about the Society of Journalists?
You'll remind me if I miss any of those three things.
Just talk about whatever you feel in your heart. That's
there we
really
go. Hi, I am originally from Wildwood, New Jersey, have lived in Indianapolis since the mid-90s. I've been, the full-time gig has usually been in city and regional publications, writing for various publications. I was on staff at Indianapolis Monthly for years, spent 10 years as arts and entertainment editor for the Indianapolis Business Journal, a position that I sort of created with them. And parallel to that, I've been involved in the local theater world here, first writing about theater a lot, and in the last 10 years as playwright and director, and also running some unique programs that I hope we'll talk about a little later. The board game stuff kind of evolved out of the journalism. Growing up in a small town in Jersey on this quiet island, ghost town in the winter, crazy honky-tonk in the summer, there were always people living in the apartments next door or coming down for the summer, and having those like backyard games of Monopoly and things like that. Gaming, tabletop gaming was a big thing. This is all pre-video games.
Yeah.
And so, as most of you may know, Indianapolis is home to Gen Con, its largest convention every year.
I was going to ask if you're an attendee.
Oh, God, 75,000 people coming. I am one of them. I've been going for years, and every year, at least for the past 10 or 12 years, I've written the best games of Gen Con piece, or sometimes a best non-intimidating games of Gen Con piece.
There are some intimidating games.
There are some, you get somebody who is sort of interested in the hobby, and then you see these games that take 8 hours to play.
You're like, let's play Scythe.
Yeah, look. So I try to warm people up into it, not to be snobby. If somebody plays Uno and Yahtzee, more power to them. Hey, but you might also like this game.
Yeah. So
trying to, because I'm a big believer in people sitting around a table and doing stuff together.
Yes.
It's always been fun. That has evolved into, I started doing some private parties for some people and for some companies. And then that evolved into being asked when Garage was getting rolling. About 3 years ago, they asked me if I would be interested in hosting a regular game night.
Oh, you're somewhat. I didn't realize you were somewhat affiliated with them.
I am.
Very loosely.
No,
or
listen,
indirectly.
I mean, it is a paid gig, but it's
Oh,
a gig
cool.
that I love. So every week, every Tuesday, 6 o'clock to 9 o'clock, I wheel out a cart of about 70 games that folks can choose. Some people bring their own to play. Some people want to stay in their own sort of pod. You know, a parent comes with their kid every week and picks out a different game to play. Other people want to be social. They want to connect to other people. They're willing to say, hey, do you want to join us and play a game? And I am kind of the game sommelier. I'll teach games if people are interested in that. I'll step back and let people do their thing if they just want to grab U's and Q's or code names and go off to a table and play. And I keep fleshing out the collection. There's one group that likes me to have a game set up for them whenever they show up and with a new game, give them a quick teach and set them loose. I review board games sometimes for my own website. So I sort of have become immersed in it. So short answer, yes, I go to Gen Con.
I'm so excited because I love board. I do not play them enough, but I love board
All right,
games.
tell me what some of the go-to games are.
This is the issue: is I have no go-to games.
Okay.
I have a regular running D&D group.
Okay.
I've been playing with that group since 2020
Mhm.
online.
Right.
We do not meet in person. We have an Australian, well, actually a New Zealander who lives in Australia, a Canadian, two people in Arizona, one in Kentucky, and me.
Yeah.
That is a worldwide.
Online has
D&D
made it a
group.
lot easier to find people to play with in some cases, but there are some terrific other locations around the city and around the region where people get together. There's a Monday night thing up at Fisher's and Pinheads up in Fisher's. That's a wonderful group of folks. There's folks playing in game stores. There's more stuff popping up like this, but we wanted to create a comfortable place for people to go. The other thing I like about doing this at the garage is we get the people who are deliberately there, but we also get people who just happen to be wandering by.
That's
and
the
are
best.
like, hey, cool, we can play a game while, what do you got there's 6 of us. What's a fun party game?
I have a question.
Good.
The garage-
As a podcaster, that is a good thing to have.
This is not about board games. This is
Okay.
a purely random question. This happens at the garage,
Right.
where the primary thing of business is food.
Yes.
Does this become an issue when associated with board games?
Usually, I mean, the rule of thumb when you have folks over for board gaming, you don't have Cheetos. You know what I mean?
You're like,
You're
no saucy wings tonight, please.
Careful what you dine on. No, we're in our 3rd year of doing this at the garage. I've had 1 game casualty,
Okay.
and that was like a little missing piece from something.
That's
I've
amazing.
had next to no damage. And when we started doing this, they initially weren't sure how they were going to do it. They thought they were going to have to budget, and buy certain games, but games have a life cycle and that sort of thing. So I've got like 800 games. I think I can keep things stocked. So it actually
wild.
helped them out a little bit by not having to, have a library of 15 games or 20 games or something like that.
I have more. I'm passionate about board games despite not playing. Like,
You see
what's the game about the birds? Wingspan.
Wingspan, yep.
And then there's
which now has Wormspan, and there's a fish version now too.
there's a game about you have a D&D type character, but it's a card game. So you like play cards as powers, and you go on adventures.
Magic the Gathering, that kind
No.
of thing, or
Gosh, it's called like something Frost.
Frosthaven. Yeah, there was
Yes.
Gloomhaven, which was by a local designer.
Oh, that's here.
He put that out on Kickstarter initially, and it's grown. That thing is huge.
Mm-hmm. And then there's a race car game that was really popular last year. I think
There's been, and it's funny.
I don't know any names.
No,
I just
but
aware
it's
of
cool to see the evolution of this because, like 15 years ago, 20 years ago, whatever it was, first time going to Gen Con, so much of it, or at least the stereotype, was it was all dungeon crawlers. You know what I mean? It was all mages and elves and dwarfs and wizards and, all the games were that. There's still that piece of it. But there's so many games now that are about designing a neighborhood or, like you said, race, car racing kind of games. There's a game out now that's about a mascot race.
Yeah.
So there's a wide variety of kinds of games now. It used to be it was almost all like I said, dungeon crawlers, fantasy kind of thing, or shipping and trading in the Mediterranean kind of games.
Yeah, like Catan's obviously the classic example. It's like please please farm your sheep and your
Right.
and your wheat. And stuff.
But there's like those gateway games. You see more and more people and wider and more games showing up at like Target and Barnes and Noble and places like that you wouldn't have seen them before. But games like Ticket to Ride and Catan have sort of crossed over into the mainstream. You know, they're not as, you know, it used to be, it was either, you know, there were the Monopoly, Scrabble, Sorries, and all those games, and Clue on one side, and then the hobby gamer stuff on the other. But there's the gray area in between now, which is sort of interesting and exciting.
Yeah. So, what's the timeline of you sort of getting into board games? How long ago?
When I was a kid, you know,
Okay.
backyard playing
You're
with
like
the neighbors.
classic basement or garage, literal garage.
Literal gaming with the neighbors, you know, and all that. And I've always
You
enjoyed
just
those and
sort
card
of
games.
held on to that.
And held on to a little bit of that when I had kids. You know, board gaming, table gaming, card gaming was always part of the life. And moving to Indianapolis, where Gen Con was happening, sort of solidified a lot of that. And then having markets where I could write about the stuff. And again, not my primary occupation. I was writing all kinds of other things as well.
Sort of auxiliary.
But it was an auxiliary thing, and to be able to turn that into something that not only is a nice sideline and hobby, but also I love teaching games, and I like stepping back sometimes and looking over, you know, where 8 tables of people are playing all different games.
What
Yeah.
makes a good Tuesday night garage board game? Because you cannot go and play a Gloomhaven or a Frosthaven.
That's a challenge.
Because
I mean, we've
that's
had people bring what's the clock tower game that's big now. Anyway,
I'm the worst
yeah,
at names.
and we have some people who will come and play a game for the duration. You know,
Yeah.
it has to fit within, I'd say, a 2-hour range at the most, because we have a
Some
3
board games take an hour to learn even.
Exactly, we have a 3-hour window. The ideal is somebody at the table already knows the game. One of the worst things you could do to alienate people from the hobby is you bring, you know, 3 people over to play a game, and, you know, there's 4 of you, and you open the box and then start reading the rules. That's a fatal mistake. One of the benefits of this thing we have now, I don't know if you've heard of this thing called the internet. One of the things that's really helpful is that almost every game company now will produce a how-to video, which you
Definitely.
can watch.
Like a little QR code.
Yeah, you can punch the game, you know, punch the cardboard out, get the game, have an idea of how to play before you tell your friends, hey, join. So that's what I try to do there as well. I'll get in there early, set up a game for some people, and talk them through initially how to play it, to give them an idea, at least how to get going with it. I forget what your question was, but what makes a good
like Tuesday night garage game?
Tuesday night.
The garage.
Not 1,000 components. You don't want lots of little chits, you know, and, you know, 1,000 little cubes and everything else like that to have to worry about. But people play games of different. There's a game called World Wonders now that's out there. That's, you know, a fair amount of moving pieces,
yes.
but
I have played that.
people played and had a good time with it. But there's also people who want something simpler. There's families with kids who want to make sure I have, you know, they'll play, you know, hey, that's my fish, or they'll play one of those games and have a good time with it. A big part of it is figuring out what the group is into, because I always get people coming up and saying, what's a good game?
That's the worst
Well,
question.
it's like, you know, it's like somebody said, what's a good movie? You know, well, tell me 3 movies that you liked. Or I'll say, tell me what games you've enjoyed. Do you want something that's really competitive?
I always hate the question, what is your favorite X?
Yeah.
What is your favorite movie?
But what is your
board game?
favorite is different than what would I like?
That's true too.
Because, you know, I can tell you what some of my favorite movies are, or in my movie, the columns I write for Midwest Film Journal, I transitioned from best of the year to most satisfying films of the year. Side note there. But when it comes to games, you know, my wife will only play like trivia games or word games. Doesn't want to have strategy games where you have to think 3 words ahead. I have a dear friend who only likes kind of abstract chess-like games.
Yeah.
You know, get theme out of the way. And there's other people who like something that's more immersive, you know. There's people who like things like Dungeons and Dragons and, you know, that kind of more storytelling, more not as much roll the dice and move.
Yeah.
And
Like a
there's lot of dice,
collective
of course.
narrative type.
Yeah,
deal.
more narrative.
Yeah.
And there are other people who like screw your neighbor kind of games, which are, you know,
I
Ones
was
where you
gonna say I hate those types of games.
yeah, but they're at the extreme. Sometimes folks in the gaming call them sort of multiplayer solitaire is the opposite of that. Ones where you're really not interacting with other people, but there's other games where you could do stuff to really harm the other person.
Yeah.
And there's also co-op games. There's a
Yeah.
lot of co-op games now that people don't realize where it's basically everyone against the game. And there's other like party games where they're more of an activity than a game. You know what I mean? It doesn't really matter who ends up winning. It's more let's laugh and see.
So what type of game do you enjoy? The games where you are being competitive, or do you enjoy the games that are a little more casual and you can have a conversation? You can have.
It depends on the group. I mean,
Well, I'm talking about you though.
Oh, me personally, if I am with a group of people who are into either side of I would never impose one kind of game. I have some friends who every month or so they have a little party and stuff like that. We're used to playing like telestrations and games like that. I'm not going to push Scythe on them, or Dominion or one of those kind of games.
The big heavy.
Yeah, or something that's
thinker
a
games.
little meatier that they want to laugh and have fun, and that's cool. But other people, it's more fun. There's another group I may be going to join them tonight that'll get like 2 games in a night of more strategic kind of games, more outthinking your opponent and trying to outthink the game.
What's your go-to board game right now? If you had to sit down, like snatch, you said 300. How many board games do you have?
Like 800 or something.
Oh my God. We all have our vices, Lou.
Well, and the thing is, I love the game stores here. There are some wonderful game stores, but the reality is there's also a lot of game trading that goes on. Every quarter at the garage, and we just did one last Tuesday, we have a board game swap meet where people can just bring games they want to trade, and we swap them out.
That's a wonderful idea.
And it's been terrific. We had about 15 people swapping last Tuesday.
Is there a level of, we'll get back to the question I asked just in just a second,
No,
but is
that's
there a
right.
level of like, quote unquote, value? So like, you're not going to trade Scythe for a Monopoly.
Right. What I did, and I picked this up from something I saw at the game store, just to answer your question, no, you're not going to do that. There is a relative value. But I also brought in some games deliberately to put on a no negotiation table. Just put them on the table. If you leave a game, take a game. And that way, people who did bring a Monopoly or bring in, something that nobody particularly wanted there would at least be able to trade a little bit and get something going.
Yeah.
And then I try to find either community centers or other places that'll take. I have a box of games I'm looking for to decide who to donate those to. Or we'll put them in charity auctions at the In Conjunction convention and some other organizations in town that do things like that. We'll put some of the games every year in the charity auctions.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I forget what the original question was.
The OG question was, what is, like right now in this moment, what is your like go-to game?
I love, always like Dominion, Castles of Mad King Ludwig. I'm very
Castles
into,
of Mad, I've not heard of that
which
one.
is a wonderful kind of, you're building out. He was an actual guy, built a crazy castle, but this is when you're adding rooms to a castle.
Oh, I
but
like
you're
those
also
games.
buying, like if us two are playing, you're first doing the arranging of how much things are going to cost, and then I'm getting the first buy, but I have to pay you. So it's a little bit of money management.
Yeah.
And figuring out, well, he only has $4,000. I'm going to make it so he can't buy this. And so there's some strategy in
head-to-head there.
A little bit of luck involved based on what comes out. Trying to get different combinations, and you end up with this crazy castle. I'm enjoying that. Forest Shuffle is another one I like a lot, where you need to plant trees and then populate them with animals. Try to get certain combinations. You're putting plants underneath. You're putting birds above. You're playing animals on both sides.
So I see two themes here for you. You like cards.
I like cards.
And you like sort of building.
Yeah, I like
things.
worker placement games.
Yeah.
I like the sort of tile building, crafting a city kind of thing.
Interesting, yeah.
I
think we're in probably the same realm of enjoyment.
Well, so we got to play one of these days.
Tuesdays are really free for me actually, so I really should come through.
What I resist, and I know a lot of people love social deduction games, which are the games where there's 8 people playing, one of them is the killer, that kind of thing. I've never been particularly good at reading mysteries or watching mystery movies or trying to keep track of clues and all that. And those games are kind of lost on me. I'm just a random guess at the end.
At home, my brother used to work out of the Cards Against Humanity office.
Okay.
So at home, I have an alpha secret Hitler
Okay.
like a box. It's just a white box. It's written in Sharpie on the top. It says Secret Hitler on top.
Yeah, those games I'm kind of worthless on the social deduction ones. And there are a lot of really good ones. I mean, people don't realize the scale of these things. I mean, Gen Con alone, I think the number I heard was something like 400 new games.
Yeah,
announced.
400 new, brand new,
Right.
has not been seen before.
Yeah.
Most of them are probably decent to good.
Oh, some of them are terrible.
And some are terrible.
Cool. But we had the Tuesday before Gen Con. Every year I invite game companies to come join us at Game Night Social. Last year we had just from people who signed in. We did door prizes and whatever, but we had 9 game companies demoing their new games for free. We had 275 people in the garage. You know, it was really cool. It was hard to find tables.
Are they allowed to have that many people?
They were playing games outside. We had the regular game library plus all these companies demoing their games. And, you know, it opened up Gen Con to people who, yes, the people who came from out of town, who came in early had something to do, which was great.
Yeah.
But it also brought people who were sort of curious about Gen Con, locals who never really go.
I really need to go. I didn't plan ahead enough this year. Oh, and I had just gotten a new job. I got laid off in January, so I didn't have any money to go.
I understand.
My goal next year, though, is to get a press pass.
There you go.
Get in.
Go for it. Well, if you're
So when you go to Gen Con, do you go as a attendee or are you a worker?
I go as press because I'm doing best games of Gen Con columns. I'm looking for stuff for the game library there. I don't like sign up for, you know, ticketed events. I'm basically going to almost every dealer in the dealer hall and having a conversation. A lot of it we set up in advance. Yeah. You know, setting up meetings, stuff like that. But I'm trying to play as many games as possible in those. We say 4 days, but it ends up being you know, like 7 days of gaming.
Last year I wrote like I tried to do like an annual like video game like review thing, and I got in contact with this guy who was a game designer at one point on Blue Sky or something, and he was like, I thought I played a lot of games, demos and things like that. I was over 100 just trying a lot of stuff, and this guy's like, I played 400 games this year, and I was like, how? And he goes, well, most of the time when I play them, I'm spending 5-10 minutes absorbing the decisions that someone did when they made it, and then moving on and taking notes and whatever. When you go to Gen Con and you try to play games like that, are you in that type of rush, or are you playing a full cycle of it?
I usually play a full cycle, of which is a little easier given that a lot of what I'm writing about are, again, what I label those non-intimidating games. So they are games that, you know, are 20 minutes or half an hour. There are a fair amount of those. Sometimes I am sent review copies or given review copies, and I'll spend a full, you know, if they're longer games, I'll spend a full time with them. Or I'll try them out with folks at the garage. So they're getting exposed to some new games as well. So yeah, I give it a fair shake.
Definitely. What does it mean to you to be able to provide, actually, how to rephrase this a little bit. What is the importance of sitting down at a table with your friends or maybe strangers and just like enjoying a game?
The importance of that is sitting down with friends or strangers at a table and enjoying a game. You pretty much said it.
Yeah.
One, it's an opportunity to focus on something that doesn't matter ultimately. You know, and so if you approach it the right way, if you find the game that you're comfortable with, learning a new set of rules. When it comes to kids, it's getting them used to, okay, here's a rule set. Think creatively within that. You know, even earlier than that, it's learning that a 5 on a dice means 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. When it comes to Monopoly and things like that, it teaches us that there are people out there who just want to make you bankrupt. So there's those little lessons like that hidden in there. But no, it's social. It's finding ways to sort of negotiate rules, you know, when there's a question that comes up. It's being able to be a cool winner and a cool loser. It's being able to laugh with people. One of the highlights there early, this was in the first year, there were 3 different groups of people who were playing separate games. At the end of the night, they all sort of finished up at the same time. I said, why don't y'all come over here for a second? And there's a ridiculous game called Gimme That. where you're basically, it's about counting potatoes, okay? And there's only one pencil, and everyone has a sheet, and there's a dice that gets rolled, and you're trying to get the pencil from other people, and when you roll a high five, you have to high five people, and you have to do this on the table, and there's all kinds of stuff, but you get the pencil, you're counting sheep, and counting potatoes, and the sheets move. It's nonsense. It's complete and total nonsense. And these people, again, there were a couple people from Europe, there were a couple people from the West, there were a couple locals. They were all just having a great time together. At the end of it, they wanted a picture taken together with them with the potatoes. That is, that's what we want this world to be, damn it.
True that.
So a big part of it is that. It's finding opportunities to connect with people in a way that opens, and sometimes conversations come out of this. I mean, I haven't gotten a story yet of a couple that's met there. I don't have that story yet.
Yeah.
Now they have 4 kids and blah, 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 blah. But
just a little longer.
Right.
It'll come around.
But we do have regulars who were there almost from the beginning. A couple who, were a boyfriend and girlfriend who got invited to their wedding.
Oh, really?
And went.
Wait, you said you didn't.
No, but they were involved. They didn't meet at my
okay.
thing. I didn't want to give you that full story. But it's just opportunities for people to do stuff together. I'm always interested. One of the questions I ask people a lot of times is, if you buy a game for $50, how many times do you feel like you need to play it in order to feel like you've justified the cost? And I've had people say, 5 or 6 times. I've had people say 10 times. I've heard people say 1 time. Because if 3 of us went to a movie and bought popcorn, it's probably going to cost that $50. And we don't say, well, I should get more movies out of this.
Yeah.
So sometimes just even that one experience with the game can be a good thing.
There's a conversation about that within, I think board games and video games obviously walk hand in hand a lot of times. It's like, what is the value of a video game? If I buy a game for $10 and the video game's only 30 minutes long,
right.
Does that mean it's worth it? But I think about it in terms of, like, I get a cup of coffee, it costs me $10.
Right.
And I drink that in 5 minutes.
And some people, are very interested in replayability with games. Is it something where it's kind of one and done, or you've got it after you've played it 2 or 3 times, you sort of get it, and
Yeah.
Okay, I'm done. But that can be enough.
Yeah.
And there are other games where you keep learning more strategy. Oh wow, this nuance is in here, and this is in here. And there's one of the other things that's big now is there are games that if a game becomes popular, there are expansions to it. And sometimes the expansions add a really cool thing if you're kind of tired of the first, and sometimes it's like,
Yeah.
why bother?
Well, you mentioned Dominion. Dominion has like 30 expansions.
Right. I ended up finally destroying my Dominion boxes and just putting them all in,
binders or whatever.
file box.
Yeah. Just like a Magic set or something.
Yeah, something like that. Well, I'm not as obsessive as I am about keeping things neat and having them all perfect and whatever. I believe in making them playable. But the people we talked about, who might play 40 games a week, and there tend to be people who that is their number one hobby. That is their hobby. That is the thing they do in their spare time. I've probably played more board games than most people, but there are people who've played, to the 10th power more than I do, because I get involved in other things as well.
Definitely. You mentioned in your intro there was a thing you wanted to talk about in terms of stuff you're involved with.
Oh, you mentioned Indy Reads.
Yes.
I think that was it. This for how many years now? It has to be like 8 or 9 years now. We started putting on theater hat for a second.
Sure.
In the theater world, there are full play productions that happen out there. There are also play readings sometimes. Most of those that happen are about helping a playwright develop their work or get some feedback or maybe interest a director or whatever. We realized, a local actor and I at the time, that there weren't any, there were very rarely an opportunity for an actor to choose what material they were going to do. You're at the mercy of a casting director or an artistic director or producer or whoever. And so we created a play reading series where every month we pick a professional actor in town and just say, what's your bliss? What role would you love to do? It doesn't have to be something you'd be castable in.
Yeah.
It could be the wrong age. It could be a different gender. It could be whatever, whatever you want. It could be the play you've been burning to do since college. It could be whatever. The only and we said, pick that play and let's read it. You put together a cast. We read it at Indy Reads. We bring people into the bookstore so people get a little idea of what Indy Reads is about. They maybe donate books, maybe buy some books, but it's a free event with a play reading every week. We're now the second Wednesday of every month at Indy Reads Bookstore at Fountain Square. You get to hear terrific actors reading a play at their passion level. We never announce what the play is going to be.
Yeah.
That's the other thing. It's always a surprise.
Do they practice, or is it their?
It's up to them.
Okay.
Some rehearse it, some don't. And we've done over 100 play readings.
That's
So
dope.
if you're somebody who is interested at all in theater or just in entertainment, it's almost like watching the audience is interesting, because sometimes I'm up there reading stage direction, essential stage directions. And this was all before my time, but I feel like it's what it might have been like listening around the radio. Having stories told to you by terrific acters, but you're putting it together in your mind.
Yeah, because they're not in costume.
They're not in costume. There's no sets. There's no, none of that. They're right in front of you. And it's been, I honestly will say, some of the best theater experiences I've had. And I go to Broadway when possible. I see as much theater as I can here. When I'm in another city, I go to see whatever the local regional theater is. Some of the best theater experiences I've had have been at those readings. And actors are hungry to do them, because it's an opportunity for them to flex their muscles, to try something different. We've had, all-female versions of plays that were traditionally male. We've had people, actors in their 20s playing people in their 80s. We've had a couple that were both actors that never really had a chance to work together pick a two-hander play to do together. So that's been really exciting, and that's something that it's community building in a different kind of way. Another theater project that I'm involved in that's different than most. I mean, I love regular theater. I love being able to go to a theater, sit down, get my program, watch a terrific play with set lighting, costume, and all that. But another partner and I realized that a lot of people, because of the way the media market is, because you can't pick up Nouveau News Weekly anymore and see the listings of every concert and play that's going on.
Yeah.
The Indianapolis Star no longer for years hasn't had listings or even reviews of what's happening. So even if you thought about maybe going to theater this weekend, you wouldn't know where to go, what to do.
I had no clue.
No clue, exactly. And even if you did find out, it might be like, well, is this more comedy? Is it something that I would like? So with all that in mind, what we did was we thought, there are organizations all over the city and groups that have a particular interest. Instead of asking them to come to a theater and take a chance on something, let's see what their interest is. Let's find a play that meets their interest and give them a reading or a full production on their turf. So we partnered with different organizations. For instance, Indiana Landmarks, which has the Indiana Landmarks Center building. There's a great play that was done at the Goodman Theater in Chicago, was done off Broadway with Peter Weller, RoboCop, as Frank Lloyd Wright, a play called Frank's Home. We love that play. So we talked with the folks at Indiana Landmarks. We licensed the play, cast it with terrific actors. Because it was a reading, we could do it on a few rehearsals, so they were able to work for a reasonable fee. We always pay our actors, but can't make a living in this town. They're very difficult. But they were happy that they were paid for it and got a chance to do some meaty parts. And we did a reading of it at the Indiana Landmark Center for an audience that was 80% architects and preservation people. And they loved it.
Yeah.
And we had a discussion afterwards about the issues in the play. But it wasn't like, here's an educational play. It was, here's a play that could have been done at any professional theater in town. One of the most recent projects we had was a full production of a play. Right across the street here right down the block is the Chatterbox Jazz Club. We've been wanting to do something there for a long time. There's a play called Sideman, won the Tony Award for Best Play 25 years ago, or some, whatever years ago. Edie Falco played it. It was in it on Broadway. We rehearsed and did a full production, off script, a full production of it in the Chatterbox Jazz Club.
Yeah.
The play, even when it was done in New York, even when it toured, it was never done with live musicians. It's not a musical, but it's about the jazz world. And there was always recorded music in it. We got a live jazz trio playing along with the show. I don't know if you've ever been in the Chatterbox.
I have not, but it's on the list. It's on the list.
And it's a shotgun of a place. It's a narrow.
It's not big.
But we directed it for that location. And we sold out 2 shows. They invited us back another time. We sold out 2 more a couple months later. Wonderful partnership with David at the Chatterbox. We found out in talking to folks right before we started the play, half the people in that audience, roughly, were theater people who had never been in the Chatterbox or don't go to a jazz club. The other half were jazz heads who don't go to theater.
Yes.
That was like the ideal.
Yes.
We've done partnerships with the Indianapolis Symphony. We did one with Gallery 924 up there, we did a play in their art gallery. We did one with the Indiana History Center, a play about the Lincoln Douglas debates. We're doing one this week, I'm not sure, or last week or 2 months ago, depending on when you're listening to this. But next week in our time, we're doing a play with the Indiana Land Trust, outdoors. We're doing a play called Camping with Henry and Tom that is based on an actual camping trip that Henry Ford, Thomas Edison, and Warren Harding took together. And it's a play from about 20 years ago. Alan Alda did a recording of it with Charles Durning at one point. Other folks have been in it. And it's amazing how much it speaks to what's currently going on in politics right now.
Sure.
And we're doing it for an audience of about 30 people outdoors.
But you keep saying we, by the way. What is the name of the organization?
Oh, that's Sightlines Indy.
Sightlines
And it's
Indy.
basically myself and another local artist here, John Thomas. Then we sort of throw everything under the banner of Two First Names Productions because of Lou Harry and John Thomas. But we do that project. We do a long form improv show called Going, Going, Gone, which is set in an auction house. It's very interactive with audience members. We launched that at the Fringe Festival about 10 years ago and have done it periodically since then. We used to do it every month here. Yeah. We just did it again at the festival. We do that for private parties and convention groups or whatever. So finding ways to connect to community in different ways is a big thing for me. Definitely. And having a full-time job on the side is, necessary sometimes, because in this market, breaking even is considered a win around here.
When
it comes to the arts, unfortunately.
Yeah. And then one last thing. I just want a quick blurb on it because you always mention it as your main job. Right. But the Society of Professional Journalists. A
lot of people don't realize that national office is here. Mm-hmm. SPJ does a lot of advocacy work on behalf of journalists. As you know, we've been labeled the enemy of the people by certain people in Washington. Mm-hmm. There's a shrinkage. It's becoming more difficult for journalists to actually do their job, which is essentially to seek out the truth and report it.
Yeah.
We are big advocates for, we have the SPJ Code of Ethics that's gospel for a lot of journalists around the country.
Definitely.
My job is to edit Quill, which is SPJ's magazine and website. You can go to quillmag.com if you want to check that out. And then I also manage all of our national awards programs. So we have professional awards, our Sigma Delta Chi awards, about 50 categories, including 3 podcast categories for journalists around the country and the world, and also for college students. We have our Mark of Excellence awards, which are, so I corral a couple hundred judges every year to go through a lot of stuff. And it is in a very challenging world right now for journalists and therefore for the public to get information. It's empowering to see how much good work is actually done.
Definitely. So I'm sure the Wish TV stuff a couple weeks ago was very interesting for you. We won't delve into it.
There's an endless parade of challenges.
Yes.
For folks going into this profession, locally and nationally.
Did you know? Oh, you said you never looked into me. So my wife works for Fox 59.
Oh, okay.
As a morning reporter.
I used to do
so I hear it.
I used to do a morning report on the arts when I was, about 10 years I spent at the Indianapolis Business Journal. I had it every Thursday morning, arts preview at Fox 59.
Oh, really?
So I always spent a lot of time in those offices.
In the halls.
It's always fun going in the hall and, out from an interview comes Famous Amos, or out comes, Margot Hemingway, or, whoever, you know what I mean? It's a fun parade at those places.
Mm-hmm. But. Well, thank you for sharing. I was mostly just interested in what was going on there, but I'm going to ask you a really hard question.
Here we go.
What is the importance of art? Because you've spoken so heavily about board games, which are an art, stage acting, which is an art, and then also journalism to an extent is an art of its own.
To me, and when I talk about playwriting and talk about live theater and things like that, to me the best work, the stuff that speaks to me the most is that reminds me what it is to be a human being. Why am I not that chair? you know, and sometimes that's challenging, and sometimes it's distancing a little bit, but most of the time it really just pulls me in. I want to, I think somebody who's raised in the arts, and I come from a pretty artless town. Right? Had every opportunity. I mean, I took advantage of every opportunity I signed up for school clubs just so I could get on a field trip to New York, that kind of stuff. But I think if you're exposed to the arts, you get used to being inside somebody else's head for a little while, or at least a part of it. And that's gigantic steps toward empathy, which is something that's desperately needed right now. And they're fun, I've had experiences where probably most of us have done this, where you've watched a movie at home and it was okay. And then you saw maybe the same movie in a movie theater and you're laughing your ass off.
Yeah.
And that's because you're around other people. That moment in a full, live theater production, knowing that you're seeing this show that's happening for the first and only time right now, there's a thrill to that. It reminds us what it is to be a human being. It anchors you in the now, but also as a rich sense of history. You can go as deep as you want into any of these art forms. You could just go to an art gallery and just have a reaction to something, or you can go deeper and see what else that artist has done, or what else has been done in that genre. Where does that style evolve from? It's an endless well of interesting stuff, but you can go in as deep as you want. And it's the same thing with board games, and it's the same thing in books. You could be a completist of a certain writer, or you can see who that influenced. So I had a wonderful trip last year to Nashville, Indiana. There's a African-American musicians Hall of Fame museum, whatever. But there's a wonderful interactive piece there where you can pick any artist. Let's say you pick Jimi Hendrix. When you click on him, you could download some songs right into your key, but you can also see who he influenced and who influenced him. And then you go to that person, you give a list, and you find out who they influenced and who influenced them. That interconnectivity of the arts is fascinating to me.
They say there's no original ideas.
Yeah, maybe there are. Maybe
Only
there are.
remixes.
But also, Stephen Sondheim in the musical Sunday in the Park with George, it kind of concludes with, I'm going to paraphrase it if I can remember it. It's something like, let it come from you, then it will be new. And you realize, as a playwright, I realized this, that even if some ideas went into this strange Play-Doh fun factory of a brain we have, even if all our experiences go in there, it comes out as something different, even if it shares similarities with other work.
Yeah.
So
Amazingly well put.
there we go.
I have some set questions.
Oh, here we go.
You said you know what a third space is, so recurring question, what is a third space to you?
There are different definitions of it. I'm going to give my personal one. My third space is not a physical one. It's when I am writing something and the characters have taken over. When I feel like I don't know what's going to happen and characters are talking to each other. It sometimes takes a couple of years in a piece to get to that point, but I love when something happens that somehow came out of my fingertips that I wasn't expecting, where it feels like, and I'm not a supernaturalist, I'm not into, fate and this and God's controlling or some ghost or whatever. It's still me, something's going on in the brain. But when that happens, I feel like that to me, may not fit the other definitions of third space, but that's where I feel like I'm in that space. I love that.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I always am so impressed by my dungeon master, the way he can step into the shoes of a character, because he doesn't know what we're gonna do most of the time.
Right.
So the way he reacts to what we do in character for whatever villain or ally we're dealing with is like, it's mind-blowing.
It's a form of
to me.
improv.
Yes.
I mean, that's why I love working with improv performers here in Indy. And there are a number of places where you can see good improv in Indy. When we do our Going, Going, Gone show, it's always a cast of 3 or 4 improvisers
Yeah.
doing and seeing what they're able to create in the moment, the reality they're able to create is pretty remarkable. And that's the same thing with a good D&D game. That's what's happening. You know, you're suddenly in a world and you're making choices and you're there and not there.
Yeah.
You know?
People who are not into D&D, when I tell them I play and they don't know what it is, I always just tell them it's a shared storytelling experience.
Yes.
That's exactly what, I mean, that's all it really is, hanging out with people I like hanging out with and stuff like that. So the next question, very related.
Okay.
And I'd like you to actually answer this more specifically because you do know what the average third space is. What is a third space that has existed for you previously that no longer exists?
A number of my plays, I'm working the 5th one now, are set in the town I grew up in, Wildwood, New Jersey. And I haven't, maybe every couple of years I get back there to walk on the boardwalk, to get some sand in my toes, to get the soul there a little bit. The town has evolved and changed. It's a 5-mile island, 5 miles by a mile. But not every one of my plays is set there, but I go back there. I get pulled back into there when I'm writing. And if that does that qualify as a third space for me?
I don't deal in gatekeeping.
Gotcha. Okay. So, yeah, it's where my characters sometimes tend to gravitate either there, or I have a vague sense of what I call the suburban Fort Wayne stories, and I've never been really to suburban Fort Wayne, but when I have sort of a middle America kind of play that's in a nondescript place.
That's what you picture?
I say it's in suburban Fort Wayne. When you're in not a significant city, but outside of, but not a major, but yeah, so that sort of Wildwood Boardwalk in the fall, when most of the tourists are gone, but Sam's Pizza is still open.
Amazing.
Yeah. That's the one connector through the 5 Wildwood plays, the 4 that have been produced, and 1 that I'm writing now. A local pizza place, Sam's Pizza, is the only connecting thread. It's mentioned in all of them. So yeah.
Is the pizza any good?
Yeah, it's terrific. It's
How's the
terrific,
pizza?
but it's also kind of over romanticized. I realize we tend to romanticize certain things. In the same way, Wawa has just moved into town here at a number of locations.
Yeah.
Like convenience store. I love Wawa. But I think if somebody's from the East Coast, they've romanticized it a little.
It's just a gas station.
Much. No, it's still better than
Oh,
the
come
gas
on.
station. Oh, it's much better. The food's good. I'll take a cheesesteak from there over half the, $15 cheesesteaks at a restaurant. But we tend to romanticize the things we grew up with in the same way we romanticize the music that, oh, nobody makes movies like that, or, nobody's been as good as the original cast of Saturday Night Live, or nobody,
We only remember the good stuff.
we remember the greatest hits.
Yes.
That's the thing, oh, this album isn't as good as his old stuff. Well, you're forgetting half the songs that were on his old stuff.
Definitely.
Beatles accepted.
That's all good? Is that what you're arguing? Or?
Yeah, well, most of it. Yeah. There aren't a whole lot of skip songs in there.
Previous guests.
See, now you've got the sound of riding a bicycle on the boardwalk in my head.
I like that sound.
I'm going to my third space.
The shaky.
Yeah.
I can't even. It sounds like train tracks almost.
It's like a clacking.
A miniature train track.
Yeah. Anyway.
No, it's beautiful.
Take me back.
Thank you for sharing.
Sure.
Previous guest on the podcast. Always ask a question of the next guest.
Oh, very good.
Preview.
Okay.
The previous guests on the podcast were Adam and Siren of Indy Type Shop down in Garfield Park. So you actually get 2 questions.
Okay. Oh, one from each. All right. Very nice.
What is an Indiana story?
I can tell you specific Indiana stories, but what qualifies as an Indiana story? There's different ways of reading that question.
It's however you like. He was pretty open about it, or pretty open with it intentionally.
Okay.
You could tell a story about Indiana for yourself, or
I will tell you my favorite book by an Indiana writer.
what's that?
Does that qualify? Yeah, sure. It sort of answers the question. What's an Indiana
I kind of
story?
want to know a Lou Harry Indiana story too, but
Oh,
tell me the story.
Walt Wanger and Jr.'s book, The Book of the Dun Cow, and The Book of Sorrows was the follow-up. A sort of, if you think of like an Animal Farm kind of book, but with sort of religion instead of politics. An amazing, it won like National Book Award back in like the 70s.
Great.
The first one.
It'll be in the show notes.
But if people don't know those two, you got to read them both though. And they're painful and beautiful and in their own sort of language, but really readable. And they're about animals on a farm. And
not to be confused with Animal Farm.
Not to be confused with Animal Farm, and kind of an evil that's out there. And there's loss in it, and it's just beautiful writing. And yeah.
What do you call a trilogy of two?
Well, the thing is, there was a third book.
Oh, okay.
Very good.
Trilogy minus one.
Ditch the third book. Read the first two. Because I think it was complete after two. What's a Lou Harry story?
What's an Indiana story?
An Indiana story. Okay.
What you got for me?
Oh, here we go. We were at Indianapolis Monthly years ago. One of the other writers was writing a piece about the movie theater business here in Indy, right? What chains were in, what movie theaters, blah, 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 how the distribution worked, all that kind of stuff. It was going to be the feature. And I volunteered to write the sidebars to the story. Those are like the other pieces, the shorter pieces that get dropped in. They give you more entry points into a story. They sort of stuff that doesn't fit in the main thing. And one of the things I decided to do was to test the theory. When you go into a movie theater and it says no outside food or beverage?
Yeah.
I wanted to test that theory.
Sure.
So back when Circle Center had its movie theater open, I went down, on with a budget from the Monthly. And I took a big soda from the mall, clearly had marked an outside,
like a giant
label on it. Yeah, like a
big gulp or whatever.
Exactly. Like a Sparrow's, whatever it was. Put it on the counter, ordered my popcorn, walked in with it, nobody said anything. Second time I went in with a big bag of candy from outside the mall.
Like a big bag of Twizzlers
Like a
or
big,
something.
yeah. Nobody said anything. By the fourth time, I went into the Circle Center movie theater. By this time, I'd almost run out of movies because I did all these in like a 10-day stretch. By this time, it was like a Jean-Claude Van Damme, third tier, whatever.
Sure.
I went in with because I could only carry it in a bedpan, a 9-pound heavenly ham.
I was going to ask if you got to like steak or something.
With a large loaf of like a whole, French bread, and a 9-pound open, like the, stuff with the wrap already pulled back. Nobody said a word. That is one of my go-to Indiana stories that nobody cared. I know it doesn't say much about Indiana. It's not like I went corn shucking or anything like that, but it was one of my crowning moments.
I wonder what I could do at the Can. I don't think they have the same sign.
I think they would be a little tougher.
Oh, you think?
I think they'd be a little tougher. And
I'm calling up college.
Alamo's probably a lot tougher too. I do also, in terms of social stuff, by the way, first and third Sunday of the month, I host movie trivia at Alamo Draft House.
That's right.
We're having a good time with that.
I forgot about that.
All original questions.
Give me a
Here's another Indiana thing.
Please.
We do a fundraiser every year for a scholarship at Pike High School. In Indiana, I was able to meet and become close friends with 3 different Jeopardy champions. There are smart people for me. Not all Jeopardy champions.
Anyone I would know?
I'm sorry, people who've been on Jeopardy.
Okay.
One of them was a Jeopardy champion, Eric Berman, who used to be with WIBC.
I definitely don't know that.
Great guy. But yeah, 3 people have been on. So we were able to have people play Jeopardy against 3 people who've been on Jeopardy. Now, if I were in Philly, I couldn't find 3 people who were on Jeopardy. Here, I can become friends with them.
Yeah.
It's a town where things are possible. What's the other Indiana thing? The 2 programs I mentioned, Sightlines Indy and Indy Actors Playground. Not only is the talent here to be able to do those things, but I could create them, again, in partnership with folks. But there's no barriers. There's not big barriers to creating something. If you're not concerned with actually making money, there are not big barriers to doing something creative. And it's not, I'm not pretending it's just me. There are other people doing some really interesting
There's an amazing accessibility.
Stuff. The fact that Butter developed here, the art fair, the fact that all these things are happening. It's pretty easy to make something happen. Again, much harder if you are struggling financially, and I went through plenty of that in my past. Certain things are easier if you're, based on the color of your skin, based on how privilege works in this country, and that's a reality. But things can be created here, and that's sort of my Indiana story, I guess, is
Right
being
on.
able to try to make stuff happen.
Yeah, I love how accessible the artists are here. If I see something on Instagram or out in the wild and I get the name of the artist, a lot of times I'll send them a message on Instagram, say, I love your work, and I get a response. So that's good.
That's very, very
Should do
cool.
that. Yeah, should absolutely just reach. I mean, I think they love to hear it. I don't know.
Did I cut you off from another question?
I was gonna, not really. I was gonna tell you to ask me a movie trivia question.
Oh boy.
I want to test my knowledge.
I could pull out the whole list, but I didn't have them ready.
That's okay. If you don't have one ready, we can move on. Lou Harry, is there anything else you want to talk about? Pretty much done.
I love talking about what's going on in the city. If you don't, I talked a lot about stuff that I'm involved in, but there's tons of other stuff. If whenever possible, it as I said before, it's difficult sometimes to find out what's going on, but there is stuff going on,
Absolutely.
and it's worth getting out to have those experiences.
There's an amazing level of opportunity here. The most interesting question, I think, a couple months ago when I was just getting started, I went to Reddit. I was thinking about like advertising, which I haven't done on Reddit, but there was someone who's like on the Indiana subreddit. They're like, what do you do in Indianapolis? And I felt so enlightened in that moment because I was like, you can do anything. It's just, you just have to know what you want.
Even when I did my 10 years as arts editor at the IBJ, part of my job was to get out and experience stuff. And I could tell you, even when it was my job, there was more stuff to do than I had time to do.
That's how I feel right now.
So there are opportunities out there just about any weekend, and even any time during the week, to get out and do something. It's up to you to find out what fits into your life. A lot of it is free or low cost. There are opportunities, if you want to, ask a theater about whether you can volunteer to usher. Find out what, there are tons of volunteer opportunities. The Heartland Film Festival has volunteers who screen movies all year long to decide what's going to go in the festival, and then has gatherings to discuss those. Cool thing if you're into, if you want to see a lot of movies. There are, on the sports front, there are plenty of leagues that you can get involved in. Anything, from dodgeball to,
What else do people play?
What else do people play? That's right. Pickleball. They're all playing pickleball. All the kids today are playing pickleball.
Dodgeball and pickleball, the two most important sports.
There's all that stuff to do. People don't realize that if you're a resident of, I think it's just the county, might be beyond, you can sign up for free for Pacer Bike Share.
Yes.
So when I'm, if I have to get from one end of Mass Avenue to another, boom, I pick out a bike, take a ride, but otherwise you can cruise around.
Definitely.
Well, I was among those who weren't happy at all when the art museum went from free to paid admission. I was pretty vocal about my concerns there, and with other matters that happened at the IMA. But the 100-acre Art and Nature Park is still free. Take a walk around the reservoir.
Yeah.
A
common thing people mention on this podcast.
Oh, do they?
I like it up there.
I love it up there. Be able to take a comfortable walk through. Garfield Park. There are people who live north of Market Street who've never been to Garfield Park.
Especially on the weekend. This is actually mentioned from the last guest. Actually,
Oh, really?
The farmers market is just incredible.
And it is easy for a body at rest to stay at rest. And I hear variations of this in plenty of other towns. But, there are people on the south side of Indy who think that anything north of 86th Street is in, Milwaukee, and there
feels
are people,
like it
and there are people on the north side who feel like anything south of Market Street is in Kentucky. And that's not the case. There are, it's not really a city of like shopping neighborhoods, but there are interesting places to hit in, take a walk in Irvington someday,
Especially in October. Because I've been told I've only lived here since last October, so I haven't seen it.
Oh boy.
But I've heard that Irvington is the Halloween town.
Irvington is Halloween Central. It's an amazing
So I'm excited. Lou Harry, thank you for joining me. Would you mind asking a question of the next Third Space Indy guest?
Hello, next Third Space Indy guest. Tell me your third favorite thing about Indianapolis.
Third favorite.
Your third favorite thing.
It's always hard.
Not your favorite, not your next. I want to know your third favorite thing.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Thank you for asking. Lou Harry, thank you for joining me. Can you let the people know where they can find you? I've heard that there's quite a few.
I'm not the greatest at keeping track on social media, but you can look at louharry.com. That's an easy one. And I try to update things there. You'll also find game reviews, theater reviews, and some other stuff on that I kind of feed that site when I don't have another place to park it. You can go to Facebook at Lou Harry Writer, etc. I do have a separate Facebook page for people I've actually met. But for those I don't, I still welcome you to come in, check out Lou Harry Writer, etc. And those are probably the main ones. I could give you a dozen other places, but
Yeah.
look up Travel Stories at Indianapolis Monthly. I do a lot of those.
And
Midwest
Tuesdays.
Film Journal for movie pieces. Okay, I'll ask you your movie question.
Yes.
John Cazale probably had the greatest career of any actor ever. Unfortunately, he died young. He made 4 movies, all of them masterpieces. How many of them can you name?
John Cazale?
John Cazale. C-A-Z-A-L-E,
He's an actor?
yes. Can you name any of them?
You said 4 masterpieces?
He made 4 masterpieces, all within like a 4-year period
Can you give me a year?
in the 70s.
Oh, definitely not.
No?
No. Give me 4.
Godfather.
I was going to say Godfather.
Fredo and the Godfather. Godfather 2. The Conversation and Dog Day Afternoon.
Okay. I was going to say Godfather because when you mentioned, especially a guy with an Italian last name.
Right.
I was like,
I mean, James Dean was kind of 3 for 3, but Cazale had 4 for 4.
If
And
you
he
a-
dated Meryl Streep. So
if
there's
you
that.
ask that in the trivia night, is that 4 separate points?
It depends. Sometimes I'll do that. I try.
We're getting off the rails.
We've been no, but it's cool. We've been modifying. There's a philosophy behind trivia nights too. I'm a big believer in people. I want people to have a good time, and I want people to be challenged.
Uh-huh.
So my roughly formula, you don't have to tell this to people, but I'm telling you, if there's 8 questions in a round, maybe 2 gimmies, maybe 3 guessable, 3 or 4 guessables. Like I'm giving you a multiple choice, or I'm giving you put these in order kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then a couple that are more challenging.
Okay. What level is that? That's the more challenging, or is that in
If
the
it
middle?
was name all 4, it'd be more challenging.
Okay.
If it were 1 point each, it would be in that middle zone. But I'll do things like, did a category last December. I gave a title and you had to tell me if it was or was not a Hallmark holiday film.
That's pretty fun.
So those are kind of you can coin flip if you want.
Yeah. He told you where to find them, but also remember, board games on Tuesdays
Right.
at the garage.
Game night social at the garage, 6 to 9 o'clock. every
Second
Tuesday.
and fourth Thursdays.
No, that's wrong. I'm sorry. Start that again. Every Thursday. No, not. Stop it, Lou. Every Tuesday.
Every
You got me
Tuesday
all confused.
at the garage.
Every Tuesday at the garage. Game night social. First and third Sunday of the month. Movie trivia at Alamo Draft House.
And then sometimes with
Other stuff.
what's the play thing?
Oh, Indy Actors Playground. Every second Wednesday of the
Every
month.
Second Wednesday at Indy Reads.
At Indy Reads. And in Sightlines, whenever we find a partnership. If you are part of an organization that might want us to bring a Sightlines play to you,
That's what I wanted to hear.
we will, let's talk. There is some cost involved because we have to get the rights to the play, pay the actors, everything else. But you'd be surprised at how probably cheaper than if you brought in a band or
Absolutely.
a musician. Yeah.
All right. I'm glad we got there, and I'm glad you gave a shout out to the last one because that one sounds sick. I really want to go to one. Thank you so much for listening to Third Space Indy. My name is Michael Zarick.
My name's Lou Harry.
Your name is Lou Harry. You can find Third Space Indy. You can find Third Space Indy on Instagram at Third Space Indy. You can also go to thirdspaceindy.com where I release a blog every Monday with the release of the episode. It's pretty long. Give me your email and I'll send it to you. Third Space Indy's intro music is done by local artist Jennison. Thank you so much, Jennison, for sharing your music with me and the people. This is the last unsponsored episode of Third Space Indy. Next episode will have a sponsor. It's a light sponsor, and it's someone I agree with, so that's what we like to hear.
That's helpful.
Thank you, Lou Harry, for coming on. Have a great rest of the day. See you in the next one.
A pleasure.